Hi, this is your host Shubham Tiwari, and I welcome you to Education Plus, a show brought to you by Wonder Published Magazine, where we try to bring in the institutional perspective to the discourse around education and, more importantly, education technology. Our today's guest is Ms. Abhilasha Singh, who's principal at Shining Star International School, Abu Dhabi. Welcome to Wonder Published Magazine, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shubham. It is my honor and my privilege to be talking to you today. And thank you so much for the invite for this conversation.
We are glad to have you, ma'am. And you have been all over the world. I mean, both in terms of professional career and your other your social work, and you have such vast international experience. And I believe you talked about this term globalization at a TED talk in Australia. So let's begin with that. What do you mean by globalization?
So globalization is a very simple, which I'm sure you're also aware, and we talk about it to our students. And it's been the buzzword: think local, think global, act local.
Okay.
So the world problems, and especially, I would like to keep the focus of Agenda 2030 today. That is the deadline to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals. So if and all of us have the collective responsibility in ensuring that we're contributing to the achievement of these goals.
Right.
And how this will happen is that each goal is important in its own being and is interconnected to all the 17 goals. And if this is a global problem, not if, it is a global problem, but it can be achieved through the work at grassroots level through our local initiatives. So if we are talking about, say, one of my favorites is climate action, and a favorite is goal number 4, quality education. So if we aim at that, all the students, all the children around the world should have access to quality education and inclusiveness. That means nobody to be left behind. So we are not looking at, well, we know that there are people, there are children in parts of the world where do not have access to education due to poverty, mainly due to poverty, and of course also because of government's lack of sorry, my cats are here and they'll keep interfering.
That's no problem.
And the policies, so the children, like child labor, so that way, how do we ensure that this happens is through local means. So we get it down to the schools, and we get our students to first of all be aware of the problem, and then take action. So there are 3 A's of work here: advocacy, activism, and taking action. And we all know that this is a decade of action, 1 year already gone. And the decade of action is about ensuring that Agenda 2030 is achieved in these next 9 years of work. So spread this work to your local community and engage your local community in ensuring that they are also contributing towards meeting the agenda.
Right. So how do you think this pandemic is going to affect your agenda of 2030?
Well, there is in 2020, when pandemic hit, that year was the declaration of the decade of action. But all the plans, all the plans that and all the actions that were supposed to be rolled out, they took a hit because of the lockdown and the information at the same time, the wherewithal not reaching the people. So we've sort of slid back many years because in this 1 month, there was so much work that could be achieved. So the pandemic has hit, and especially has hit at the grassroots level, because now you imagine children. Now I'm in UAE, and we keep telling this to our children also, that we are very fortunate to be in UAE during this time, because the government support has been immense. And of course, the country being a developed country, we have 5G network. The government supported us with devices. So our children actually did not experience the learning loss. But take example from home itself, like back home in India, right down to the villages, did those children have access to technology? Did the teachers have access to resources where they could support learning during this time? And what was the support by the government? How much did the government take care of, say, even if the children did not have devices? So was there a radio station which was broadcasting
Mhm.
the lessons and was given it to the teachers to be able to reach out to their students.
Yeah.
I know some teachers who have conducted lessons through WhatsApp.
In India.
In India, I have a teacher in Maharashtra
Okay.
who did amazing work with his children. But then, these are, and these stories need to be told, of course, these need to be celebrated, but everybody did not have that. And India is a vast country. Now, this is
Yes.
one example, one small example from the big world that we live in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. This is something
Yes,
that
absolutely.
actually, something that actually has affected
Absolutely,
the
ma'am.
yeah.
And you talked about climate actions, and we see that you're using a virtual background. So can you please tell us what is it all about?
So goal number 13, climate action, is a very important goal to be taken very seriously because it affects not just humans, it affects biodiversity. And by affecting biodiversity getting affected, humans naturally are
Absolutely, they're a
affected
part
because
of
we
it.
depend, because we live in this world where
Correct.
we require biodiversity around. So if we are talking about the melting of the polar ice caps because of industrialization and pollution and the global sea temperature rising, and at the same time the global warming surface temperature rising, so that affects melting of the polar ice caps. Now when the melting of the polar ice caps, we all know, will result in some coastal areas getting
Flooding,
submerged
yes.
because of the level in sea rise.
Correct.
And then because of the global warming, we have also coral reefs that
Yeah.
get affected, and coral reefs, even 1%, 1 degree
Change in
raise in
temperature,
the
yes.
temperature affects the coral reefs dying.
Yeah.
And coral reefs are the nurseries of the ocean. They are the rainforest of the ocean. Here is the 90% of the marine population that comes to feed or lay eggs. So the entire marine life gets affected because of that.
Absolutely,
So
yes.
this is one small example. Now, either because of because of global warming, we have
Deforestation and all. Correct.
desertification. Deforestation results is impacts global warming. So desertification
Absolutely.
and air pollution. So all that. So goal number 13 is about taking action and
Mhm.
taking personal actions to reduce human impact, anthropogenic activities
Yeah.
on Earth, so that everybody gets a better chance to live.
Correct.
And also, I would like to quote a favorite quote here, and this is a saying by Native Americans, that we don't inherit this Earth from our ancestors; we borrow it from our children. So
It's wonderful.
this responsibility, each individual, each adult in this world has, that we leave this world intact and
Correct.
a little better to hand it over to the
Next
our
generation,
next
yes. Correct.
generation. So in
Absolutely,
that
ma'am.
manner, our actions are very important. So whether it is, and also climate, one of the climate risk these days is use of plastic.
Yeah.
And there is statistics say, now I'll not be able to quote the numbers, but statistics say that the microplastic in the water is now reaching our glasses.
Correct.
It's
Our
reaching
food
in the
through
fish. It
fish.
is
Yeah,
reaching
correct.
our through fish. It is reaching our desert, our dinner plates.
Yep.
So humans really need to take notice of this, and we have to ensure that we do take action to
Yeah.
be responsible. So whether it is about avoiding plastic,
Yeah.
walking the distance where you can, using public transport,
Mhm.
saving water, I
Right.
mean the list goes on and on and on. And
Absolutely,
also
ma'am.
about and not just about taking action, we have to get students now and also talk to organizations for funding, and also to tech companies who
Right.
will look into this, at how recycling of plastic takes place, and how students now are given resources to ideate and to design things, to create prototypes which can then give solutions for alternatives to plastics, because plastic is here to stay. It has invaded our lives in
Absolutely,
ways
everywhere.
like we really can't do about. Even if we try, it's very difficult to sort of not have plastic around us. So we
Correct.
need
Absolutely
to
correct.
now manage to avoid plastic uh, and take take responsibility and responsible actions towards that.
Absolutely, ma'am. So you've been involved with some of the best schools in India and, on international level. So, and you have been, part of various United Nations committees, right? So, I mean, tell us what makes a school international in its standards?
Thank you for that question. This is something a favorite. I mean, this is my big part of my work,
Right,
and a lot of energy goes into that. Internationalism in the school. So internationalism in the schools is not about studying in an international curriculum.
right,
Internationalism in the school is about global citizenship, about making our students aware that our world is small, it is very interconnected,
right,
and our actions in one part of the world has the ability to impact another part, human beings in other parts of the world.
yeah,
So it is a lot about learning about each other's cultures. It is about learning tolerance. It is about empathy. It is about respect of other cultures, and also about knowing what's happening around the world, and
correct,
then amalgamating that together. So it is a lot about collaboration. Internationalism in the schools is about collaborating with agencies across the world, with education fraternity, with peers from different parts, from schools in different parts of the world,
yeah,
and then having conversations which help in bringing down walls and creating a space for having conversations which help the world, which help you to
right,
understand the other cultures better, and also to understand your responsibility about this is one. We are not just we are not just citizens of our only our country.
yeah,
We are global citizens.
correct,
So it is about innovation. It is about creativity.
right. And you've also been involved in with the curriculum designing. So how do you see
Yeah.
curriculum designing changing or taking place now that this pandemic has disrupted the education, the flow of education, let's say? So how do you
So
deal with this thing
very
now?
interesting, very interesting. In fact, last night I was working on the curriculum only, and I'm working on a collaborative project where we are designing a curriculum. We have 5 people involved from different parts of the world,
Okay.
and we are now making a common curriculum. So we have somebody from Africa, we have someone from Netherlands, from Eastern Europe,
Wow.
and one from USA. So we all are bringing in our experiences, our knowledge, and I wouldn't call myself an expert in that because I'm also still learning. But then all these experiences come together to make a curriculum which is a curriculum for the schools to adapt, which has the best in it. So
Right.
what are we looking at? Uh, Pandemic brought in when pandemic hit and the schools locked down.
Yeah.
We at that point we were told that this is now the disruption in education. So we the disruption in education brought in, and we all sort of pivoted, and we prepared a contingency plan where we looked at our curriculum, looked at it backwards,
Okay.
and brought in together that okay, this is 1 year, or maybe perhaps at that time it was 3 months. We didn't know what would happen 3 months from now. So they've been working on a termly basis to redesign the curriculum to fit in that we don't have learning loss for our students, but at the same time, the children also learn the building blocks
Yeah.
and not miss out on the majors. So a curriculum design at the moment we are looking at, even and the national education policy could not have come at the right time, at a
Yeah.
better time.
Yeah.
We literally it needed change.
Yeah.
And needed what the government has in fact initiated. It's wonderful. So while CBSE is a very content driven curriculum, but at the same time, if you look at the CBSE manuals, it gives a very nice guidance. It's a very structured guidance to the teachers, to the schools, to sort of work in a way which is student centric.
Okay.
And holistic development, and ensure that our learners, they when they leave school after grade 12, they're equipped with all the right skills that will help them become independent, live their lives independent.
Correct.
And
Life skills. Yes.
be self-guided and all that stuff. But we also know that very few schools are able to do that, because large majority of the schools in India, they're still very structured approach. It is teacher directed, it is
Yes.
teacher controlled, and we do not
Correct.
leave our children much space around themselves. It's
Yep.
only academics, academics, academics. And I have heard principals literally saying that, oh, I don't let my grade 10 and 12s participate in any activities because they have the
Okay.
boards to study. And that's very
Okay.
sad, because you're taking away one precious year, two precious years from a student's life,
Yeah.
and you know, burying him under the books, which ultimately is only a very small slice of a child's life, because
Right.
that academics in a 360-degree is a very small slice. The rest of the skills the child learns out of classroom, engagements out of classroom. So curriculum design at the moment should look at student competency, and there's a long list of it. Student competency, global competencies,
Yeah.
then how we prepare our students for international benchmark, because CBSE students fail.
Yeah.
A lot of Indian schools, you know, they are not able to reach the PISA. We are not there. In fact, only this year I think will be the first cohort of PISA. Indian schools will be taking a very handful of them, that also. So in UAE, we do PISA, we do TIMSS, we do Pulse, we do Acer International, IBT. So our children do not reach, very few of them reach the international benchmark standard.
Okay.
So there's a big overhaul that the curriculum design requires,
Right.
to get the children experiences, opportunities where they're truly developing 21st century learning skills.
Right.
It is not just about just knowledge acquisition. The emphasis has to be on the knowledge acquired, and how the child is then, our children are able to apply that knowledge in
Right.
real life experiences,
Yeah.
real life application, cross curricular links. Our children are not able to connect the dots between different subjects.
Yeah.
They are not able to apply that knowledge in different aspects of different cultures, or on that international level, where that requirement is that, okay, this knowledge is a sort of a bag of knowledge, but then how does it apply in different scenarios?
Yeah.
There we fall short. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of a thing where, and also very importantly, SDGs have to be embedded in the curriculum. So education for sustainable development goals has to find its way into the curriculum, and principals, leaders of the school, policy makers have to ensure, and the leaders of the school have to ensure that the entire school community is aware of it, and there are actions that are taking place with embedding of this SDGs in the curriculum.
Right.
And apart from this is also a very important fact of climate action curriculum, which very few schools around the world, handful of Ministry of Education have taken climate curriculum as a priority.
Yeah.
Very few. So there, a lot of work needs to go there as well in the curriculum design.
Right. So do you worry that this pandemic is going to, broaden the difference between, let's say, India and Bharat? Because a lot of students who are, studying in their native languages in state boards, do you believe this is going to put them at a more disadvantageous position? Because, when I speak with these kids from hinterland, even the senior secondary students don't understand, the utility of an email ID. They don't have email addresses. They don't understand anything beyond WhatsApp or Facebook, let's say. So how do you see, how do you see this panning out?
A very good question, Shubham, because technology is here to stay.
Yeah.
We know that without technology, it is technology that has brought the world, has made the world
Correct.
small. Now, if like you and me are talking today from different,
Yeah.
so much distance between us, but we're able to talk through Zoom.
Yeah.
And that's how the technology has made life easier. And thanks to internet, I kept repeating this for the first 3 months, that I'm so thankful to the person who's invented internet, because with the pandemic hitting, at least we were able to bring learning to home. The schools came home.
Right.
So the schools, the leaders of the schools have to ensure that we do not deprive our children from this learning. They have to ensure that technology has to be a integration has to be a very big focus in the schools. And it
Correct.
would be very unfortunate that in spite of having the resources that we have
Yes, exactly.
and the population that we have, where our best brains are working for NASA, for universities
Right.
abroad, and our own children are left bereft of simple knowledge or simple skills, because having an email is, it is it is a demand these days. It is
Yeah,
it
it's
is
so
it is
basic.
much
Yes,
needed. It is
absolutely.
basic. That communication that happens, everything is going online.
Yeah,
So whether it's your banking, whether it is sending, anything that you do, even like people are shopping these days through
correct.
online shopping, and
Absolutely.
people are making a lot of money on Amazon.
Yeah,
That's one platform. That, I mean, if you look at TikTok, and there are people posting
yeah.
their know-how on
Endorsements
how you
and all.
can make money,
Yes,
endorsements and
absolutely.
all
Yeah,
that. So if we do not do this for our children, I think we are doing a big disservice to our kids. So definitely, the government has to take initiative, and realign their focus on how we bring it down to the grassroots level. Now, the
correct.
thing is that the government, I'm not blaming the government. Government does a lot. Government has the right heart and mind, but it is the people, when it sort of trickles down to their soldiers who are going to do this,
Correct.
who are going to ensure that the policy is implemented. That is where
Yeah,
the problem is.
absolutely. And the mindset, as you said, because
And the mindset.
I myself, come from the hinterland. I studied in the medium. So I know during
I'm
my
from a
time,
state board. I'm from a state board. I'm
oh,
from UP
wonderful.
board.
Wonderful. So I'm sure you also know that you must have, felt this during my time. The computer teacher, he was nobody. I mean, nobody, used to even respect him, even his colleagues. So this mindset of, aversion to technology, let's say, or something like that, that needs to change, right?
That needs to change, and I would like to slightly, not digress, but I'd like to open a window towards the World Economic Forum's report on Education 4.0. Are we preparing our students for the fourth
Right.
industrial revolution?
Okay.
So that report has highlighted 8 points, and out of that 8 points, those 8 points break down into the 4 skills that our students require, and then the 4 ways in which the learning, the delivery of learning has to change. The entire paradigm of how the learning has to be, that shift in learning, delivery of learning. So the 4 skills that WF talks about is global citizenship, innovation and creativity,
Okay.
technology, and interpersonal skills.
Right.
Now, out of these 4 skills, you and me have studied in schools that we have.
Yeah.
Out of these 4 skills, and in the present continuum also, just think about it. How many schools do focus on, have these 4 skills highlighted in their curriculum or as
Not many.
a
Correct.
vision mission of their school?
Right.
Right. So global citizenship, that's what I told you about internationalism in the education.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Innovation and creativity. How much space do we provide for our students,
Yeah.
where they expand their wings and they are let free to pitter-potter in a maker space kind of a space lab, or like in even if, say, it is not a physical space in the classrooms, the teachers drive the students, give them that inspiration that,
Yeah.
this is the course. So this is what the principles of physics or science that we are learning. How do we ensure that we are creating prototypes, or we are creating something which
Right.
becomes like a working model for these applications? Where do we do that? It's only theory all the
Yes.
time. Then is technology, which we are speaking about, and one of the things on the back burner which we don't focus on, and interpersonal, that is interpersonal skills,
Yes.
which
We're
is
lagging.
going to be
We're
a
behind.
very important skill when they move into the world of employment.
Yes.
Because if you're not a team player, then you miserably fail. If you're not a person who takes initiatives, then the company does not see you as a value added addition.
Absolutely. If you're not articulate enough, I mean, that's a big disadvantage, right?
And if you're not able to work with each other, like, how everybody wants to work in a class company, in all those white collar jobs,
Yeah.
right? But that company becomes a good company because of its workforce.
Absolutely.
Because what kind of positivity we bring to the culture of work.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a good interpersonal skills, we're not able to make friends, we're not able to sort of
Yeah.
negotiate on
Make
a daily
yourself clear.
basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So where are we giving opportunity to our children to develop these kind of skills? And these conversations happen when the classrooms are not taught in that didactic manner, where the
Yeah.
teacher is at the start of like in the front of the class with a chalk or a whiteboard, and
Yeah.
then she's only teacher talk time, teacher talk time, teacher talk time. Where
Correct,
do we
correct.
create opportunities for
And
collaboration and
absolutely.
conversations?
And you talked about vision, having a vision and a mission. I mean, most of the government schools, I don't think the teachers even understand the difference between vision and mission, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's thing for another conversation. But going back in time, and you said that you have also studied in state board. So how did you get into this field of education? Tell us about your initial days.
So both my parents are teachers. My mother
Okay.
retired as a principal of the school. My father retired as a reader, professor in the university. I did not want to become a teacher.
That's a breaking news for your students.
Yeah, I talked to them about it. So getting married to an army officer,
Okay.
moving around the country, and then I realized that I had to work, and teaching is the best that suits army wives. You have a family and you have a career of your own, because
Right.
our duties as an army wives are unspoken and uncelebrated, but there is a lot of responsibility that an army officer's wife has, especially like we have something known as the Army Wives Welfare Association, where we give our
Yes.
time for to support our soldiers' families, and then the other establishments. So that is something that is expected, and I do it, and ABBA is a big part of my heart, because soldiers are the backbone of the Indian Army, and looking after their families,
Absolutely.
supporting them, empowering them with skills is very important. So I've done a lot of work there. So the first time when I started teaching,
Yeah.
I was very skeptical, because I had not done my B.Ed at that time. I married very young. I had not done my B.Ed, and the first school, my first CEO's wife, cow,
Yeah.
like we very lovingly call. So my first cow, Mrs. Chatterjee, she helped me write my CV,
Okay.
and I made a couple of cover letters, and my husband gave me a card, and I went dropping in all the schools which are like around like one radius.
Yeah.
And this first the second school I went to, they wanted a librarian. So I was not
Okay.
experienced to teach.
Yeah.
Just a story. It will take a little time for you to understand my perspective on why I'm a teacher. So they wanted a librarian. I was not trained. I had not done my B.Ed. I was looking forward to working. So I accepted that.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, like we don't have a place at the moment, but you could fit in here. And let's see after that. So with a library, and they gave me one teaching class.
Okay.
So that, and I was joining mid-session. So I took that up enthusiastically, and I transformed
Right.
the library like the Virgo that I am, can't sit still and meticulous, methodical in my work.
Workaholic,
So
conscientious.
workaholic
Okay.
as well. So I transformed the library, and they gave me grade 8 to teach. I
Okay.
loved it. I just loved it. I did not want to do anything after that apart from teaching.
Okay.
So the next year, the session ended. It was October I joined, and the
Yeah.
next year I asked for a full teaching
Okay.
schedule. And then the principal was very nice. She guided me. She said, "Abhilasha, you should do your B.Ed
Right.
because, then at least like you get the grade that
Yeah.
you qualify for, and also you have a qualification. You learn so much more." So I did B.Ed after 2.5 years
Wow.
of work,
After
and
already working. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so that also was a good learning experience, because already that experience I was bringing to the B.Ed. But I've had a lot of after like my first assignment, and my husband got posted, we moved, and I've had opportunities where there were offers from other fields, but I just fell in love with teaching. I didn't want to do anything beyond like after that. I said no,
Right.
I love being a teacher. There's so much happens in a class. I remember now we only have a class of 30, maximum 30. Class size is 30.
Right.
The first assignment that I had 64 students in one class, and then I had
Okay.
73 in another.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Too many.
And some of my students who were 33 percenters in half yearly
Okay.
became 73 percenters in final.
Okay. Not very studious and then taking studies very
I
seriously.
know that
Okay.
that made me understand the impact of a teacher and impact of a class teacher. The
Right.
form tutor, how much she can affect, how much she can impact her learners, his learners,
Right.
because of, you know, how, because the children hang on to each and every word that you say.
Yes.
It is, and especially the middle school. I love working with middle school because this is the best time. They are independent. They have come through primary. They are beginning to sort of become self-aware, and it is this time that you can really enforce all the I don't know if ideology is the right word to use, but disciplines and the motivation and enthusiasm, and show them the way. Because then by grade 9, the focus is already there, and they're moving into their career pathways that they choose.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have sort of charted your journey in this wonderful piece that you've written, The Road Less Traveled. And you repeatedly mentioned that you have transformed. I mean, your students have transformed you. So why do you say that, and what do you mean by your getting transformed by your students?
So this experience comes from this beautiful school that I taught in, that is Pine Grove School. And before that, I would say that before that, I take my learning to Republic of Seychelles, where my husband was posted as military advisor to the government.
Right.
And here I've taught in a British curriculum school.
Okay.
And my experience was an eye opener over there as a teacher, because what all we had studied in B.Ed.
Yeah.
And that 11 months of B.Ed actually does not teach you a lot, because it's all a lot of theory.
Okay.
But what theory I had learned, Seychelles helped me to understand that in practical, that, okay, this is how it is done. I had a wonderful deputy director who took me under her wings.
Yeah.
And again, over there, when I left, my students are still in touch with me. They still write to me now. They're all married and having children. So it's been a long, long journey. So, from there, then coming to Pine Grove, and here getting to lead the MUN Model UN Club, and the Connecting Classrooms with British Council. The work that I did, I always say that, you should let your work speak for you rather than you speaking for your work. And it is your students who are your best ambassadors. Your work is exhibited through the students' achievements. And this is exactly what happened. And my children helped me to understand my own potential. When I was working with them, when we would sit for long hours into the night researching for Model UN, there's so much of learning that I learned with my students. I mean, I didn't know that I could do this. I was a regular teacher, but this opportunity for Model UN coordinator, and then traveling with the students. So in a regular class, and probably you have experienced that yourself, Shubham. In a regular school, the interaction with the teacher on a daily basis is for a 40-minute class.
Yeah.
And then she gives homework. You don't submit the homework, she scolds you, takes you to the principal or to the supervisor, whatever. But when you spend time with the children out of the classroom, and when you travel with them, there is so much that you learn from your students. I understand my students by way they've helped me to understand how a teenager ticks. So what are the things that how do you access a teenager, because the adolescence is a very tumultuous time for the children.
Very complicated minds. Yes.
And very complicated time, and the children, they bring their baggage to school.
Yes.
So a silent child in the class might not be a child who doesn't understand or is a weak learner. Right. He has a baggage that she's carrying. So you need to understand, to be able to understand that, to be able to get work out of your kids. So for that space to interact with the children is very important. And I'm very grateful to my headmaster, Captain AJ Singh, who is our mentor. Whoever has worked in Pine Grove, he is a mentor for all of us. And I have learned so much from him. The leader that I am today is because of Sir.
Wonderful.
He's an amazing visionary leader and a very intelligent man. And he gives you space. He doesn't give you a structured work like this. The rules are there, code of conduct is there. There is a school way of working. But apart from that, he gives you space to expand your wings. And that's
Right.
exactly that happened with MUN. And traveling with the kids, working with them and the children when they got me awards,
Yeah.
it was beautiful. And my own learning of the UN, my own understanding of international affairs, all that
Yeah.
happened with those children sitting together in the computer lab after school,
Yeah.
researching on the agenda. And at one particular time, and I still remember, there's so many anecdotes, Shubham. They'll probably it will be evening if I start relaying all that. So
No
one
problem,
such
ma'am. Yeah.
time we were going to Sri Lanka, and we had 16. We had 8 committees. Eight
Yeah.
committees means that each committee had 2 agendas. So
Yeah.
at one point of time, we were researching on 16 things. So if there are 8 students who are researching on their 2 agendas, and there's one teacher, one person starts asking questions,
Yeah.
everybody feels the urge to start questions. So one would start from this side and the other from the other side, and I would like just feel the questions, left, right, and center. And I sometimes I would get tired, but it was very energizing, and it was such a lot of learning that those I remember as some very good times. So all
Yeah.
those experiences are, I can't forget. And I know that these experiences have added so much to my learning, my being, my understanding of myself, I as a teacher, my strengths, my weaknesses, my areas of work
Yeah.
where I needed to still work and strengthen those areas. So that's how I say that in my journey,
Right.
and my story, I am not the heroine. My children are my heroes. They are
Wonderful.
the ones
Wonderful.
who made me.
Wonderful, ma'am. And we can see that you're doing a wonderful job. But what's the one thing
Thank
that you
you.
don't like about yourself?
Oh. I am very enthusiastic about work, so I'm very spontaneous. So that's a strength, and at the same time, it's a weakness.
I
So
understand that.
I tell this to my friends and to my colleagues also. There's a saying in English, no, angels feel angels jump in where, what is that saying? Uh, I say it like Abhilasha jumps in where angels fear to tread. So
That's great. That's
I
great.
I keep taking up work, and it tires me down. But that's also my energizer that keeps sort of gives me a kick and keeps me going.
Wonderful.
So that I need to slow down. I realize it. I need to slow down because I have a lot of extracurricular happening by the side, in spite, like, along with being a principal.
Right.
As a principal, I need to focus on school build up and school
Right.
improvement. But a lot of my extracurricular takes my attention away from that. So that has to, I am very focused. I'm very aware of that. And I need to sort of build a timetable as a priority, that in a
Right.
day, this is what I have to do, and this is what I don't have to do.
Wonderful, ma'am. And we can hear your cats, asking for attention. But so lastly, last question to you. Any message you'd like to give to your students or your, let's say, whoever has been a part of your journey so far?
Thank you, Shubham, for that. I would refer to Miss Jane Goodall's quote here. Incidentally, I volunteered to teach SDGs to Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots School in Tanzania.
Okay.
We are a handful of educators from around the world, and every Saturday there's a class. So we sign up for that class, and we teach. There are 2 labs in Tanzania, one in Pugu and one in Kitwe, and it is
Okay.
part of Take Action Global School.
Okay.
Kuhn Timmers has started this initiative.
Okay.
And incidentally, Kuhn Timmers also has started Project Kakuma, that is the Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, where we have submitted lesson plans as teaching resources for these
Okay.
10,000 students who are there in refugee camp in Kakuma.
Okay.
So that again is a big part of my work, a big part of my heart. So Ms. Jane Goodall has said that we are all given a chance in life to do something, and what we do makes an impact. So always we get this life once, and if we have the resources and we are able human beings, it is only right that we bring happiness to others and do something for the world, do something for the underprivileged, do something for people who don't have enough. Otherwise, our life is meaningless. Our knowledge, our degrees, if we are only living it for ourselves, it is very selfish means. So we must do something for the others. And this is where the work towards Agenda 2030 or anything else, like, anything that you take as a teacher,
Yeah.
not just be a passenger in life, do something which creates an impact and leave an impact on the world. People should remember you for your good deeds.
Yeah.
And kindness matters. So be kind and do something for the world.
Wonderful. We have so many questions for you, but we'll leave them for another session. Thank you so much for giving us your time, Principal Abhilasha Singh.
Thank you so much, Shubham. Privilege is mine, and I'm really, really honored. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you everyone for watching this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.